This Lunch and Learn event is one of our quarterly series we sponsor along with our good friends at the City of Round Rock. Yeah, I see that there's several folks here representing the city and Williamson County Museum and Historic Preservation Commission and some other entities, all interested in our presentation today. Round Rock Preservation is a nonprofit that focuses on historic preservation of various buildings and structures in our general history all around the Round Rock area. Founded 10 years ago, we are celebrating our 10th year anniversary this year. Yay! I will say we've had some struggles for darn sure. We're a small but hard-nosed, stubborn group, and we've had some good success. Today, let me introduce Mr. Bob O'Dell. He's an entrepreneur, a filmmaker, who specializes in stories about diverse communities and overlooked histories. Since 2020, Bob has conducted extensive research into the Texas history of the Tonkawa people and assembled one of the largest private collections of historical sources on the tribe. Let's welcome Bob.
Thank you very much. The reason you're here today is either you come to these events quite often, or you heard about this particular topic and this drew you out. I'll tell you how this topic came to be. I don't usually like coming out to these kinds of events. It has to be something pretty good to get me out of my house and over and back, in traffic and all that. And so I decided to give them a title of a talk that I would want to come to. The problem is, when I gave them the title, I didn't have the material. So you're going to have to let me know whether I have delivered on the promise of how the Tonkawa tribe see Round Rock. I'm not with the tribe, but I'm a Texan. But I'm a Texan who's gotten to know the tribe, and to get sentimental has kind of fallen in love with them. They are really, really cool. All right, so let's get started. Before we talk about how the tribe might see Round Rock, let's talk about something that we all see today. This is one way of looking at Texas. How many of you have ever heard of the phrase the Texas Triangle? Not so many, and neither had I about 10 years ago. But this was a very interesting structure to me when I learned that 70% of all Texans live in the counties that touch this triangle, or the counties inside it. And so, now overlaying this thought about where Texans live, and overlaying that with how we see the Tonkawa, what would be the question that we might want to ask? Here's what I would want to know. So, how does this triangle figure into the land that the Tonkawa used to roam? So let's flip to the next slide. So that is actually somewhat the boundaries of how the Tonkawa tribe roamed. This is pre-contact. This is before the rise of the Apache Empire, and after that, the rise of the Comanche Empire. But when the Tonkawa were the big dogs on the Southern Plains, when they were the main tribe that everybody else respected, this was their territory. But if you ask them a question, that question, where did you roam, that doesn't really resonate to the tribe. A better question to ask the tribe is, where are you from? So where you roam, where you hunt, nomadic peoples moving, following buffalo and so forth, it's not as important as where you are from. So where would the Tonkawa say that they are from? The answer is the Yellow Star. I find that pretty interesting. The Yellow Star, right in the middle of the Texas Triangle, which contains 70% of the people of Texas, including us. Most of us, I suppose. Okay, so why was the Texas Triangle so popular? Well, there are cities sprung up there, and people came to those cities, and those cities grew. But what was drawing the people? What was drawing the early Texas settlers in particular? Let's back up. Right, let's talk about a few things. So you've already given me the first answer. You'll know what to say when I ask it. As differentiated from West Texas, the Texas Triangle has water. Okay. Now, there's good fertile soil in the Texas Triangle. But Kansas has good fertile soil as well. So as differentiated from Kansas, what does the Texas Triangle have? A temperate climate, a better climate. It's warmer. The winters aren't as harsh. There's another thing that it has versus Kansas. Trees. You know. Trees for building and so forth. It's harder to do that in Kansas. And lastly, as differentiated from the entire east coast of the United States, and even starting with East Texas, what does the Texas Triangle have that East Texas does not have? Rock. Well, you've got a lot of rock as soon as you go west of I-35. Yeah, you have the limestone. But within the main triangle, what you have is land that's already been cleared for you. So you would come out of the woods and come to the first place where the land is relatively clear. That is why Texas has grown such that the Texas Triangle is the biggest source of our population. And guess where the Tonkawa wanted to live? For the same reasons. Better climate, there's water, and the land is a combination of both woods and open land. Okay. So let's pivot now and start to think about how the tribe might have seen Central Texas. So I showed you a yellow star of where the tribe was from. Let's see what's in that star. This is where the tribe is from. It's a place called Nakhon Thamok, which translates to Red Mountain. It is a reddish hill right in the middle of, in Milam County, about an hour's drive from here. Go up 79 to Gauze, turn left, and go a couple of miles when you get to this place. And to think about seeing Round Rock from their perspective, we need to stop for a minute and just think about how the tribe saw land. Because if you want to see something through somebody's eyes, you need to know what they know, and you need to know what they care about. So, next slide. All right, so how did the Tonkawa see land? This is such a fundamental question. And if you understand this answer, you understand the Tonkawa history and why they had no problem with the Texas settlers moving in. Land, for them, is a shared resource. It is not owned. Everyone has access to it. It's like the air you breathe. You never tell someone a mile away you're not allowed to breathe the air over there. Now, people, there's so much land that the tribe saw land as something, we can work this out. There's so much land, there's so much resource. The idea of putting fences around land is just completely out of bounds. I mean, that happened around the 1870s, 1880s, barbed wire fences changed the landscape. The tribe never expected that. They thought, hey, we can live here, you can live here, we can work this out. Okay. Thanks. So land, now that we have a basic idea that they saw land as something you share, we need to know, let's think about what are some of the other categories of knowledge that the tribe would have. I don't have leading answers on this. What are some categories? What, if you were in the tribe a couple hundred years ago, what would be some of the things that if you knew these things, you might be respected within the tribe? Any ideas? What plants could be used for what? That is a huge area of knowledge. And so much of that got lost with the Tonkawa. And botanists are going to work to try to, recreate and understand the uses, the different uses that plants have. There's a certain milkweed that's called the Tonkawa milkweed, and which might be helpful in helping wounds heal, for instance. Okay, what's another area of knowledge?
Healing wounds.
I can't hear. Somebody.
Healing wounds.
Healing, yes. How to fix things when people get hurt, yes. What else?
Buffalo.
Okay, so the animal kingdom, the knowledge of the buffalo, where they are roaming. The Tonkawa would burn fields in order to sort of channel the buffalo into areas then that they could shoot. They could shoot bow and arrow before contact and with rifles later. It was a huge area. Anything else?
Fish.
What?
Fish in the rivers.
Yes, fish. Now the Tonkawa were not really, they didn't really like the fish. They would do it sometimes. Now they would gather like little clams and things that would be easy. I read that in Tonkawa, the fish, the way it's put into Tonkawa is to, there's a word for fish, I forget it, but to fish is to lift a fish from the water. That's what fishing is, to lift a fish. What else did I? What other areas of knowledge?
Teaching the spiritual dances.
Spiritual, yes.
And the creation story and teaching the young children. And
Yes, that kind of oral history has been saved within the tribe. Thank goodness. Huh? Weather. Did you know in the 1870s, they told the U.S. Army officers there was a I forget where this was in west of I-35. Maybe it was down more towards like off Cibolo Creek in San Antonio. There was some Army officers had noticed that a certain kind of tree frog was climbing up a tree. at night and hadn't seen it doing like that. They were all climbing up the trees. And the Tonquah said, get out of the river. Get out of the river bottom. There's going to be a flash flood. Okay, so I'd like to give you one more.
Stars.
Okay, the night sky. And they had stories of the night sky in the Milky Way. It's very, very common. There's a good article in, where did I just see this? In Texas Highways, I think, about the way native tribes see stars. Now, the Tonquah weren't covered in that. And I don't know, maybe they were contacted and didn't answer, but there's kind of a point there. The Tonquah aren't so well known. Now, their oral history says they are from that mountain. Like, that's where the first Tonquah came from. Every native tribe, especially like the larger ones that are federally recognized, like the Tonquah, they have an origin story, a place that they are from. That's why it's so important to ask, where are you from? So it was very important in the Tonquah for where you're born, but also where your ancestors were from. And so that for them is Red Mountain, and there's a story that they tell, and that story is also told in the film, which we'll talk about later. But where I was headed was, the Tonquah don't get a lot of coverage because they don't have a reservation. They were promised one, but it didn't happen. So, so they're up in northern Oklahoma, off I-35, about half an hour from the Kansas border. And they're doing well up there, but it's not Texas. And you ask them and say, you know, we're from Texas. We really are from Texas. And the Tonquah tribe is the only federally recognized tribe out of 524 federally recognized tribes in the United States. The Tonquah tribe is the only one of those that claims to have an origin within the boundaries of what we now call Texas. Now, they would be the only one. There would be others, and so many tribes went extinct. The Tonquah almost went extinct, but they didn't. And they've come back. And they're the ones that carry that story. And also, a lot of those tribes that were struggling folded into the Tonquah. Why? Because they have hospitality as a big value. Okay, so that's a long answer to that question, but I'm glad you're asking me so. So there's one other area of knowledge which is extremely important, and that is where things are. You know, maps? So you had to commit Texas to memory. Imagine committing Texas to memory to be able to get to all these amazing places, like where Brushy Creek meets the Hill Country, which is what we call Round Rock today. So they had to be familiar with these things. So what was their grid? What was their grid? Well, the answer is, it's all about the rivers. It's all about the rivers. Rivers are the grid. And so, let's step back for a minute and ask, what, if places, if where things are is about rivers, then exact meeting point should be about what? Where two rivers connect, right? So, so let's look at a map of the United States here. Let's call it North America, mostly North America. And so here's the major rivers in North America. Where is the biggest meeting point in North America? Well, it should be where two rivers meet. And the answer is Spiral Mounds, at the place where the Missouri River runs into the Mississippi River. So why is that the biggest meeting point, the biggest intersection in North America? Because the Mississippi is the biggest river in North America by water volume, and the Missouri is its biggest tributary. So you put those two things together, and you get a place that everybody would know, everybody would understand. And there's archaeological excavations that have been done there. There's these things called the spiral mounds, and there was this huge civilization of between 2 and 9 million people. Not all at the mounds, but up and down in a federation of tribes up and around the Mississippi River. So, let's talk about Texas. What's the biggest river in Texas? You know, you think, so Red River's pretty big. And Rio Grande. But a lot of people don't know this. But by water volume, the Brazos River is the biggest river in Texas. It pushes more water down consistently to the ocean than the other rivers. And it's deep. That's a picture of it there. It's deep. You don't get many places that you could wade across this. You've got to swim it, do rafts. It's a chore. And it floods. And so, but the Brazos is the biggest river in Texas, so it would be known as such. Okay, and here it is in a little bit larger map, so you can see. You know, it goes all the way really to almost what's now New Mexico. And the Colorado River is close to us here in Austin, but it's not as big. It's easier to cross. So let's ask the same question that we did for North America for Texas. What is what is the biggest tributary of the Brazos? Yeah, so I gave you the answer. So it's called the Little River, which is the biggest river that most of you never heard of. And the reason you haven't heard of it is shown on this next slide. Because, okay, up there. Go back. Yeah, we'll do that one first. So, so the red arrow shows where the Little River goes into the Brazos. And you see how a whole bunch of streams come out from it? So the Little River is actually fairly short, but it gathers the water from many other streams and rivers in central Texas. And go back to that. So I don't know if you saw the picture of the Brazos. It kind of had a lot of silt in it. And this is a picture of the Little River, and it doesn't have as much silt. I mean, this was an early morning picture I shot, so it's not great. But and so if you take a look at all those streams that flow into the Little River, they have something in common. Look at where all those streams start. They're all starting in the hill country. That's west of I-35 that they're starting. They're starting in our hill country. And so, so if you have this little river meeting the Brazos, that's got to be a meeting point, right? That would be like the biggest meeting point in Texas. So let's see what's at that meeting point. Oh, we're back to Tonsamook. The place where the Tonkawas say they're from is at the biggest intersection in Texas. The most obvious meeting point, and it's a landmark because it's very visible when you get there. It's not like the mountain, so it's about 200 feet, 250, 300 feet taller than what's around it. But the land there is pretty flat, so it really stands out. Okay, So how did the Tonkawa see themselves? They saw themselves at the center of the most prolific region of the Southern Plains. They were downtown. They were in the middle of it all. They had good water, good temperatures. You got woods, you got open plains to hunt. It was really, really a great place. It was the place that you really want to be in Texas. That's one reason why it makes sense that the Tonkawa had been there for so many centuries. I mean, there's no way to judge time. At least 1,000 years, I'd say. It could be a lot more. All right, so let's move towards how they saw Round Rock, now that we know how they see themselves. I'm going to argue, make this argument, this idea, that they saw Round Rock as the key corner of their triangle, which they call the Land of Good Water. I'm sure many of you have this book or have heard of it. Clara Stern Scarborough, editor of the Georgetown Sun, wrote this book. She's passed, I think, in 2015, for recall. And she wrote the history of Williamson County, and she titled the history of the Williamson County Land of Good Water. And underneath it, it says Tak Akwe Quetsu. And she named it, she said, that's the Tonkawa name for this land. So look at where their yellow star is, and you see all the different rivers that flow out from that. So we have Brushy Creek, is the southernmost of those rivers. And then we have the San Gabriel in Georgetown, and going on up, there's the Lampasas River, the Milligan River, and I can't remember all of the names. But all of that land, everything upstream of their mountain is the Land of Good Water. Now, to tell you a little story about this name, Takwake Quetsu. I talked to one of the oldest living members of the tribe, who's their last really fluent speaker. And I asked him about this because he had never heard about this book. And I said, do you know, like, Takwake Quetsu, would that by any chance mean like Land of Good Water? And he said, well, actually the first word means that. Because he said, Tak is land, Ak is water, and the way sounds like it's towards the word good. So the Land of Good Water is comprised of the very first word of this, and yet it was called Takwake Quetsu. So I went to their dictionary and poked around and tried to look phonetically at some things that Quetsu might mean. And I came up with this idea. No, can't say it's for sure, but looking at their words, I'm guessing that Takwake Quetsu means Land of Good Water because it's cool, clear, and fresh. And doesn't that describe this area of Central Texas? So they loved this. This is why this was their favorite place. All of these rivers. You know, if you send your kids upstream, they can't really get lost, right? all rivers lead back to home, right? Okay, but I'm saying it's a corner of their triangle. What do I mean by that? I can read the next lectures. Yeah, here we go. All right, so I'm doing my best to blow up of that. It's a little bit grainy, but okay, so it's the same three stars. We got Natamsamot on the right, Round Rock on the lower left, and we have Waco up on the right. Now, I'm showing that their triangle is not the Leon River, but all the way up to Waco. And what we show in dark there are US highways today. I-35 is on the left, Highway 79, a few hundred yards from here, is on the bottom. And then as soon as you cross the Brazos River, there's a Highway 6 that connects Bryan College Station to Waco. And so those highways are highways today. They started out as Native American footpaths. And so a big picture, like what are those connecting to? Those footpaths in that triangle are part of something much bigger. The Highway 79 there, that bottom part of the triangle, is part of a trail that connects the eastern United States to Mexico. It's the main trail. The main trail from the Mississippi River to Mexico would go right by Natanzamo, and if they followed it all the way to the hill country, would run into Round Rock. Now, there were shortcuts. They might try to cut the corner, you know, and head south sooner than they get to Round Rock, right? But go back up. But that diagram there is extremely important because the Brazos River flooded so much. So if you're coming up from the south, if you think the Brazos is in good shape, you'll take Highway 79. You'll take that footpath. But if there's been rain and you're worried, you continue on north, you cross each of the streams independently, because the Little River can also be quite big, and then you try to cross the Brazos River up at Waco. And so that's what they did. The Spanish did this when the rivers were up. And the natives would do it too. They would go up and they would come back down on the other side of the Brazos and then continue on in their path. So that's how the triangle works. So these big trails, the Spanish called them the El Camino Real de los Tejas. There's a National Trail Association, which put signs up for these trails and so forth. But there was also a northern trail. Because if you wanted to get up into the Great Plains, and the way north was definitely through Round Rock, right? So how did the Tonkawa see Round Rock? For those that were heading south to Mexico, Round Rock was the place of convergence. The two trails would meet. The first place that they would meet would be in Round Rock. And if you're heading north, Round Rock is your place of decision. It's your place where you decide, okay, do I risk it and take what is now 79 and head on east there? Or do I play it safe and go north and try to cross the Brazos up higher? Where to cross the Brazos. So there we have it. That's a really important place. I mean, if you think about it, I'm not sure that they thought of the Round Rock, that particular feature, so much, but the fact that the Brushy Creek starts to go up into the hill country at I-35, very important, because it's a good crossing spot. It's a very strong crossing spot. And so here is where this is their trail and where the crossing is. This is the Chisholm Trail, and there's signs up. You know, you've been there, you've been part of it. I'm sure you've seen that. There's a Tonkawa statue there now. And so you have the Round Rock here, but the actual crossing spot was closer to I-35. And you can see the wheels, the wagon wheels, the ruts. How many of you have been down there and looked and seen them? Many of them, well over half. And so you've seen these, and you turn and look the other way, and and you know, and they continue on up. So the crossing spot is actually very close to where the I-35 bridge is. And this happens a lot. Good crossing spots make good highway crossings. They're cheaper. They're cheaper to build, even today, because of good quality and stability for doing their bridge construction. So, if you're coming from the south, you cross at that crossing, and it's really over next to I-35, but I'm showing it here. And pretty soon, you've got a decision to make. A couple of blocks, 2 or 3 blocks. The trail where Highway 79 would hit this lane trail, that was your decision. You have to make your decision. Are we going to go north, or are we going to go east? And one indication of the importance of that trail, which is now 79, is this monument. How many of you have seen this or heard of this double file trail? Okay, so about 2 miles east of us on 79, there is this marker, and it says the. Do I have it printed on the next slide? Oh, okay. So it's right here. So it basically says that when the Delaware Indians moved in 1828, they laid out, I guess they widened the trail, and it became a double Y, where you could have 2 horses riding side by side. So it's like a divided highway. It's like your first, highway expansion in Central Texas is in Round Rock. Why? Because Round Rock is an important intersection for 2 absolutely major trails in North America. All right, so that's my attempt to give you perspective of how they saw Round Rock. But I've got 2 other things to deliver on. First, I'd like to introduce you to the tribe briefly with a trailer that we're going to play from our film. And so I'm a producer of a feature-length documentary called Tonkawa, They All Stay Together. It's going to be released this fall, and we'll stay tuned for the announcements of that. We have not made those yet. And this tells the modern-day story of the Tonkawa tribe. So I'd like to introduce you to that. Before, I would like to tell you who's been flipping the slides for me very kindly, is the director of our film, Drew Ritchie. Give him a little round of applause. Would you like to say a few words about that?
Thanks, Bob. This film is something that Bob and I worked together for 5 years now, moving on 6, to finally tell the story of the Tonkawa in their own words, through their own eyes. We got the blessing of spending years hanging out with them, being part of their family. We feel very welcome. We just got back this summer from a powwow. My daughters are, have now spent a good part of their lives up there and are adopted members of the tribe and have uncles and aunties up there. And so the blessing for us making this film is really getting to know the tribe. And now we hope over the next several months to share the tribe with Texas, with their homeland, and let everyone know who they are as individuals today, and also correct some of the textbook fallacies that are still taught today about the tribe. But here's our trailer.
They say that the Tonkawa are extinct. We're not. We are still here.
The songs and dances that we perform now have long since passed the time of their original purpose, but they have taken on a new meaning, and we're fighting hard to preserve those things that belong to us and to protect our way of life, not surrender it and move into another. Tonkawa tribe was indigenous to South Central Texas. That was their homeland from the time of the creation. and they were moved up into Indian Territory, right in the midst of all of our former enemies. And a big battle ensued, when a lot of our people killed.
At one point, I remember the numbers getting as low as 50 people, maybe.
Now we've got to go back and find what we lost so many years before. If you don't have your culture, if you don't have your heritage, if you don't have your history, what do you have?
That's why it's important, because we will have to teach it to our future generations. And once our elder passes on, then who's going to teach it?
Me and Miranda worked with our youth, trying to get them more involved.
Powwows, dances, regalia classes, language classes, celebrating and being us.
Yeah, it's called Color Process, can't walk it. Pulling through the red with a hustle rich bitch. From the field to the car, we smash that itch. Hiding our name, bitch, can't walk it. Color Process, can't walk it.
We're trying to save something here. We're trying to save our heritage. Y'all know what Tonkawa means? We all stay together. We all stay together.
I'm doing everything I can to make sure what is lost is found again.
We'll still be Tonkawas as long as we know who we are.
Don't ever forget your song, because it's a part of you.
Everything always works, everybody works together, everybody's got to stay together.
The Tonkawa, we're still here, and we're going to be here for a very long time.
When we have a release,
They say that the Tonkawa are extinct.
you know, it's better the second time.
We are.
Thanks. Also, it's better with a microphone. So when we have a release date, we'll certainly pass it along so it can be shared with you. And if you want to find out even faster, get on TonkawaTheMovie.com, Tonkawa the Movie, and just sign up at the bottom. You get an email about once every couple months, just with an update. So we'll definitely announce a release there. The last part is I need to tell you how the tribe sees Round Rock today. Now this was probably just as challenging as trying to search in history, is to try to get sampling of responses from the tribe, and how they think about Round Rock. If Round Rock isn't a specific entity, sometimes it was a specific entity for the tribe, and sometimes it's more of, just that greater Austin area. The first answer I got a one-word description of Round Rock from somebody. Chaos. Okay, well let me explain that. They live in a rural community. Their big town is 24,000 people. It's Ponca City, named after the Ponca tribe. That's their big town. That's the one that has a Walmart and stuff. And Round Rock is 6 times bigger than that. And the greater Austin area is 100 times bigger than their big town. So that's why that word might be used. Somebody else said, you know what, though, I start to breathe easy once I get past Dallas-Fort Worth and down towards Central Texas. I start to sigh, and I looked up Dallas-Fort Worth, that's 400 times bigger than their town. So not everybody feels that way. Here's another word I got. Expensive. Round Rock for some people is Austin. Austin, the general area, it's better liked than some other cities for the tribe, because they hosted the tribe in 2024, the Friendship Day. The mayor came out and they really made the tribe feel welcome. They reached out to the tribe and requested that. So that really meant a lot to them. For other people, they really don't have any concept of anything in Texas except Red Mountain, where they're from. Like one person said, I've only been to Red Mountain. It's the only place I've ever been in Texas. As far as Round Rock in particular, one of the things, nice comments I got is, someone said, I really like the parks here. This person said, when we visit the Austin area, It's always for a purpose. But in the early morning, we'll get up and take a walk around the area to just get the feel of it. And after our work is done in the day, if there's time left, we will go and enjoy the green spaces and the parks. And then, and then in the evening, we will sample the culture, the food, the music. And we'll try to enjoy what you have done with the land. I asked someone, do you see this as your land? And this person said, oh no, oh no. And I said, do you see, like when you see it all built up, and you think about how it used to be in its pristine state and stuff, are you saddened by that? Are you saddened by the development? And this person said, every people group must adapt or die. We are adapting up there. They're building up there. Our land is changing too. Any community that does not continue to improve itself will be left behind eventually. We don't want to be left behind, so how can we possibly expect that they would preserve the look of that land that it had in the past? Land must be managed. These are windows into people's thoughts, and I think it's really a beautiful thing. The only thing that I would suggest that Round Rock might want to do is, you put that beautiful statue up on Brushy Creek. It's a statue of a Tonkawa. They didn't know about it. So you might want to invite them down and maybe have a little ceremony and appreciation of them. I think that they might appreciate that. But otherwise, this is a really nice town. I think, and we know it's very important historically. I think they have good feelings about Texas. I think they have especially good feelings about the Austin area, and I think they'd be happy to meet any one of you. And now for questions. Yes?
I have a comment to make. I live in Grand Rock along the tree belt that runs between Neal Road and almost 620. And at the end of our green belt is a park that runs along where Lake Creek is at. In that park is one of the tallest trees in the city of Round Rock, the cypress tree. And just imagine that tree was there when Tonka was camping at that particular site. There's been gloves, tools and things found around that area, things like hatchet heads and arrowheads and things like that. And I think it's also possibly a sacred site because there's been known to find crystals and things in that part of it. So I just thought I'd add that to the mix.
Clara Stern Scarborough in her book made a point which I think is validated historically. West of I-35 is some of the best flint in North America. That was mined by the Tonkawa, and their workmanship on it was quite good, and they traded that flint all across North America with other tribes. And thank you for your comment. Any question? You went first.
I want to add to that because remember the French Methodist Church, and we have an oak tree on our property called the Council Oak Tree. It is supposed to be here in tribes would have their coal calculated. And they have a special arborist that takes care of it. I don't know how many. It's several hundred years old. I don't know exactly. Yeah. But it's beautiful and very old.
Thank you for telling me about that council oak tree. I haven't seen all the council oak trees in the area. I would love to talk to you afterwards. I'd love to take a look at that one. Yes?
I was wondering, do you know where the Tonkawas had their camp or village in this area?
So the question is, where did the Tonkawa have camps or villages in the area? They had hundreds and hundreds of campsites. Their most favorite campsites were a place where a small spring ran into a creek or a river. So I bet they camp pretty close to that crossing point here, but I don't know where the closest spring is. That, or in spring at that time, that would have been the key. But there were hundreds. They did not have any, like, you know, well, okay, they had, like, there's a major campsite near Red Mountain, about 2 miles of Red Mountain, which was sprawling with thousands and thousands of Tonkawa-related tribes. It's called Rancheria Grande, the big ranch. The Spanish called it that because it was such a big series of camps. And they had good, strong water running 365 days a year there. So, so that's where you look. You look for the good water source. Yes.
Do you have any further research recommendations? I know you brought up the Land of Good Water by Claire Scarborough, but I just, out of curiosity, do you have any further ones?
Yes, good research recommendations. I think if you want to go deep, the best starting point, the best bibliography, well, two. Well, let's give credit to the women first, because they went first. Andreas Joberg in the 1950s published a paper on the Tonkawa Indians, and it's about 35 pages. It's very, very strong, and it has a fantastic bibliography. In 1983, a woman named Deborah Newman from Texas Tech University did her master's thesis on the Tonkawa, and that is readily accessible, that particular document, Deborah Newman. And more recently, the first book on the Tonkawa came out. I forgot to bring it, and he's a friend who'll kick me later. Dr. Stanley McGowan wrote a book called The Texas Tonkawas. It just came out in like 2021. And it's published by State House Press. He's part of the Texas State Historical Association. And so there's a lot of references and so forth. Those three would get you long, long ways. Yes?
The city of Round Rock has a local legend program, and not too many years ago we named the Tonkawa as one of Round Rock's local legends.
Yes.
They did come down.
By the way, I'm so glad, let me repeat the question. Or the comment was that the city of Round Rock has had the local legends program, and in 2019, I believe, asked the president of the tribe to come down, Russ Martin. And I'm so glad you gave me that comment, because I think I might have had him on the list and I forgot. Russ Martin, when I asked him, what do you think about Round Rock? It was my first experience with Texas. That's how he thought of the city, because you invited him down. That was very, very meaningful. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Please, no, I missed you.
I just have a comment. My husband and I live on Main Street in a very old, like 95-year-old house. And we were told that there was a Native American that lived there at one point. And I found lots of arrowheads in the backyard and lots of evidence.
Oh, really? Yes,
yeah.
yes. You know, there's lots of Native people with Native heritage. To be in these federally recognized tribes, the government makes them sort of, everyone has to sort of prove their ancestry to be sort of part of that recognized entity. But for every tribe, there's just as many that have that heritage, but didn't go with the tribe, you know, onto the reservation or whatever, and carry that. And that's a really beautiful thing. And I think we are at a loss. We need to draw out such people and hear their stories and connect, regardless of whether they're officially on the roll of the tribe or have that heritage. And so, yes. Yes.
Do you know if there's any movement in maybe getting land back at their Red Mountain?
Oh, that's another question. I'm so glad you asked that question. Our film, according to the trailer, tells the story of their struggle to retain their culture and language. But in the process of filming that story, they found a pathway to purchase that mountain. And so the film tells the story not just of their cultural work, but the story of how that happened, that they purchased that mountain and what it was like for them to visit it, most of them for the first time in their lives. Yeah. So thank you. Yes?
I was wondering how the children's church
Are you asking if the Chisholm Trail came into play with the Tonkawa? Yes, yes, yes. Stephen Gonzalez, the president of the National Historic Trail Association, he says every Spanish trail was a Native American trail before that. The Spanish trails then became the trails that the settlers used. And the trails that the settlers used then became the highways. So it's just as simple as that. The trails, these footpaths were built in a smart way. You want to minimize the number of crossings. You want to have level ground if you can. Well, it's cheaper to build highways in conditions like that. So the highways today follow these very same principles.
Martin,
Yes.
lady over here.
Yes.
No, I was just going to ask what happens to all those artifacts that are found in private properties? Is there any tribal historic preservation office in the area? Does native tribal members from the reservations in Oklahoma, do they have any?
Okay, great question. What happens to artifacts that are found? First, in public land, there's separate rules. I don't know all those rules because there's so little public land in Texas. In private land, the property owner has full control. If the property owner would like to allow the tribe to see certain artifacts, and they do, the tribe has a number of artifacts, a representative sample of artifacts all across Texas. It's not like, you know, they need 1,000 more arrowheads, but they're, if it's an interesting piece, they're interested to see those things and to hear the story. There's a law, though, that says if there's remains that are found, if it's native remains that are in that era, then the tribe the tribe will come and, well, actually, there's a process by which they'll let different tribes know. A tribe then is selected or volunteers to take care of those particular remains and to what is it, reinsure them? Is that the word? In a tribal cemetery. Are we about out of time? About out of time. Okay, so last question. Yes?
Do they have a museum or somewhere that these artifacts are available to be seen?
Yes, so is there a museum where the artifacts can be seen? The Tonkawa tribe has a small museum right in their headquarter building on the reservation, which is 2.5 miles from the town of Tonkawa, up on I-35. And you can go in, it's open from 8 to 5, and you can kind of look around there. You'd be welcome to do so. But many museums have things like the Bastrop, Visitor Center and Museum has a wonderful set of artifacts. Those are Tonkawa. Yes. Are you trying to add on one question? Okay, let's see add on.
The university in Georgetown has a first American room that has artifact books.
The University of Georgetown has a room also. I'm very, very glad to hear that.
And they have a book that my family and a tuition for gold about tell stories, write them down. That book was published by my family, 1,000 pages, and it's about the history of Indian territory.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, so I would love to see that as well. I'm from Austin, Bob Odell. The film is Tonkawa. They all stay together. The website is TonkawaTheMovie.com. I've got like 5 business cards up here with that web address on it if you need that. Thank you very much. You've been very attentive. You've been a great audience. It's great talking to you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Let's give Bob a big hand. Round Rock Preservation is thrilled to present you a certificate of appreciation for your presentation today. To read it real briefly, his extensive research on the Tonkawa Indians and their Central Texas heritage. The author has produced the documentary Tonkawa. They all stayed together, Bob. We're often forgotten history of these indigenous peoples. The life for us today is enrich our understanding of the Tonkawa and how they saw Round Rock 200 plus years ago. Round Rock Preservation and the City of Round Rock Historic Preservation Office thank Bob for bringing the story to Tonkawa to our Discovering Round Rock History audience, August 11, 26. We'll be dismissed, but we have to do some door prizes right quick. Ms. Ann, grab a ticket out of there.